Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another ASMR video where today I'm going to be taking the political compass test. Now, I'm going to be going back to soft spoken for this video instead of whispering, just to change it up and give it a little bit more variance. Throughout the video, I'm going to take some sips of a drink I have with me to keep my mouth wet, to make sure that it is optimal for speaking about the topics that will be in this video. Now, I'm going to be going through each one of the 52 questions and answer them. I don't only want to do American politics on this channel, but also world topics as well as just political topics in general. So I thought it would be a good idea that one of the first videos I did was mapping out my political ideology. Now, a few things about the political compass test. This is a bad test. It's not a good test, and in another video I'm probably going to be doing a good test, such as 8 axes, which is much better at mapping out a fluent political ideology. Especially so considering the political compass is heavily biased towards one quadrant, and I will go over that in a second. It's also very old, and it is not easy to map out a political ideology on only 2 axes. Now, I'm sorry, what the fuck? I'm sorry, my phone is going off like crazy. But anyway, so if you don't know what the political compass is, I don't think there's a picture of it on the main screen, on the main page, but you can kind of see it here. It's a square doled up into 4 quadrants with authoritarian left, authoritarian right, lib left, or libertarian left, and libertarian right. Now, it divides it into 2 spectrums. The up and down axis, which is authoritarianism versus libertarianism, and the left and right axis, which is economic left and economic right. Now, in off left, you'll find caricatures like, or not caricatures, you'll find people such as Stalin, Mao, Juche, North Korea. In authoritarian right, you'll find people like Adolf Hitler, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump. In libertarian left, you'll find people like MLK and Gandhi. And in authoritarian right, you'll find people such as Gary Johnson or Ayn Rand, I suppose. There's not a lot of Milton Friedman, I believe, is one, if I think that's the right person. I think there's another really good one, but I can't think of it. The founding fathers of America were libertarian right. So you get the idea. So like authoritarian left wants a big state, and collectivist policies, auth right wants a strong state and rightist economic policies. Lib left wants little state to no state with collectivist policies, and lib right wants a little state with a free market and such. So, we're just gonna take the test. We're gonna jump right in without any further ado. Now, at the end of the video, I'm going to just tell you straight up what my ideology is. I already know. I've taken the test before. My ideology should not vary much. So, let's start. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Of course, I strongly agree. We should be putting humanity above corporations. I would always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. Strongly disagree. Your country is, I don't want to say meaningless, but it is nebulous in how it doesn't mean anything, and if your country is wrong, and if you really do love your country, you should always criticize it when it is doing wrong, which every single country does do things wrong at some point or another. No one chooses their country of birth, so it is foolish to be proud of it. I would agree. I believe that, again, your country is quite a nebulous thing, although I do not strongly agree, because I think patriotism is nice. I think that it gives people something to be happy and proud about, and if your country does do good things, then it is completely fine to be proud of it if you serve it, or you serve in public office, or something or other. Our race has many superior qualities compared to other races. Strongly disagree, and this question is basically asking you if you're racist or not. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is a nebulous question, although I disagree. For example, with America, they funded freedom fighters in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union's invasion in the 1980s, and those freedom fighters went on to form parts of Al-Qaeda. So, no, of course not. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's not always true at all. It can just be that you have two different enemies. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. I disagree here. And the reason is because international law, I do understand the flaws with it. The flaws being that, countries like Saudi Arabia and China are on human rights abuse councils for the United Nations. So obviously international law can be tainted by the other authoritarian countries in some way. So this question is generally that your country shouldn't be held accountable, which I disagree it should be. Though I believe there was a theoretical law that was, could be seen as unjust by a majority of the people in the country, then maybe if it defied international law. Now, of course, I don't agree with military action at all, so this question is kind of poor for me. Maybe I should answer strongly disagree, purely because I generally like to take a pacifist approach. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Absolutely. Places, like everyone likes to do political commentary now, but with jokes. And that can be really dangerous. I mean, if you look at the alt-right pipeline, for example, that thing can suck you in, and it's very scary. Politics goes into everything, and when everything pushes a narrative, things get scary. And things are a little scary. Second page, people are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. Strongly agree. Marx was 100% correct on this. He still is, and he was when he was alive. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. This is a question I think about a lot. I think I agree. The power of the United States. Now, again, I live in Pennsylvania. I live in the United States. Employment is generally handled relatively well. I mean, right now with COVID, it's different, but generally, we see low-ish unemployment here when the economy is doing well. But the worth of the United States dollar has been going down drastically over the past 100 years. Ross Perot warned us about this, and he was entirely correct. That is why progressives are pushing for a much higher minimum wage. So I do believe that we should work on controlling the inflation of our currency before we control unemployment, though I believe you might be able to do both. And if that is true, then you should obviously do both. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I strongly agree. I believe that our environment is extremely important to protect in every single way, and that corporations, of course, need the government to regulate them so they do not interfere heavily with the environment. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. I disagree. I am looking more into Marxism, although I'm not sure I agree with this on a fundamental level. I believe that people have, of course, people have needs, but they also have wants. And I believe in still, I don't know how to phrase this. It's a very, very long discussion. But I believe that people have certain wants that exceed their ability. And I believe that there are certain jobs that do require more skill than others. Now, I do not like using the term unskilled labor, as that is a bunch of, it's a bunch of lies. There is no unskilled labor. Although I believe that a brain surgeon, for example, is more important than, say, someone who just does manual labor. Of course, both should be at a baseline, compensated very much so for their work. But a brain surgeon has to go to school for many, many years and learn and put money into the system to become a brain surgeon. So I believe that work is not equal, although all work should be considered skilled in some way or another. The freer the market, the freer the people. I generally do agree with this. I don't strongly agree because of China. China says the market is free and the people aren't. I do believe a free market is a good component of an economic system. Has proven that it is. And the people with choices of their money, of course, become freer in one way. Given that is not the only way. It is a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. This is a question I think about a lot, and I don't think I have a clear answer on it. Is now a bottled, branded consumer product? I think yes. I think that everyone has a universal right to water as well as food. Should these be decommodified? Potentially. I believe that everybody does deserve free water. And people on the right would say, well, you can just get it from the tap, but America's regulatory systems on tap water is very, very, very bad. I would not recommend anybody drink tap water. Land shouldn't be a commodity that should be bought or sold. Again, something I'm very split on, though I do agree. Land is owned by the people that live on it. And who dictates who controls the land? The person with the biggest guns? Generally, that is the case with government. I think Georgism is very, very based. And I do agree with it. I believe that we should use land as we need as people and develop it. And tax that land for it. I think that Georgism, if we have to keep capitalism, Georgism is a very good sect of capitalism. Even Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, agrees with this. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Strongly agree. I believe that people should work for the money that they gain. If you do not work, you are simply leeching off the system, especially when you are gaining massive amounts of money that give you such an unfair advantage. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Yes, I believe it sometimes is to protect local industry and promote that for the economy. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Social responsibility, again, another one I'm split on. I think I disagree here. I think it has a social responsibility to be truthful, to never lie, and to keep a good public image. Of course, keep delivering a profit to its shareholders, whether that be in a socialist or a capitalistic system. It does mainly need to do that. That should be the responsibility. But a social responsibility, I believe it should also protect its workers, and keep a good image for itself. So I don't think it's the only one. I do think it is the main one. And that's what a company is designed to do. The rich are too highly taxed? I strongly disagree. I don't think I need to explain this one. But Jeff Bezos, who has a net worth of about $200 billion, should absolutely not be making that money. I mean, when you think about it, what did Jeff Bezos do differently to get from 150 billion to 200 billion? Nothing. He did not work harder. He did not work more. The money did it for him. It is an awful reflection on our current system that he is allowed to do that and get off scot-free and barely pay taxes compared to how much money he makes. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Strongly disagree. Everybody should have free, universal access to governmentized healthcare. The amount of money that you make should have no effect in this. Whether you are rich or poor, you will schedule an appointment all the same. We should strive to make sure that people have top-notch medical care that they can get immediately. So therefore, there is no reason to pay for higher standards when everybody is held to the highest standard. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Of course, government overreach, this is completely justified. Businesses should be truthful to what they're selling and to what they're making. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of federal multinationals to create monopolies. Strongly agree. Monopolies completely destroy business. They destroy the free market, and they destroy people's freedom to choose in that free market. They should be stopped at all costs, and the government should have full power to do this. Next page. Abortion, when the woman's life is threatened, should always be legal. Strongly disagree. Women should have the right to their own bodies. It has, for hundreds, if not thousands of years, men have been telling women what to do with their bodies, and it is time that that stops. An appeal to emotion here is not applicable in my mind. And I believe that if you are AMAB, assigned male at birth, and if you say strongly agree to this, I genuinely do not think that your opinion matters. Now, again, I can go into all of this and the reasons why I think this, but I don't want to sit here and dwell on one question, and maybe one day I'll make a video talking about it. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree. If you kowtow and lick the boots of authority, then you have become a pawn in the system. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Strongly disagree. That is a gross oversimplification of a good legal system. This is a terrible system. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I disagree with this. Having it so the state can pick and choose to prop up certain things is silly. I believe that there should be a large diversity in this. Now, I think there is a limit, although culture and art is important, even if it can't survive commercially. So having this diversity, I believe, is very important to a society. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Strongly disagree. And I believe this is a trap for libertarians. They'll look at this and they'll go, well, yeah, it should be a child's freedom to choose to go to school or not. But look at it this way. A family who is poor and has a kid in the school is going to pressure that child to drop out at an early age of 14 to 15 to work for the family and to make money. This child, which is now uneducated and working for his family, is never going to be able to get a high-paying job. Therefore, the family is going to be stuck in poverty. Therefore, the generational poverty is going to get worse. It further divides the poverty among generations, which makes it even worse. Forcing a child to go to school not only provides them safety away from their family, but also gives them free food, and as a result can give them a baseline education they need to make a better paying job. So I believe that for K through 12, it should be compulsory. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep their own kind. Strongly disagree. Again, this is a question that if you are racist or not. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Strongly disagree, and there's studies to prove this. It is natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Strongly agree. It's always true, and children are no different humans. We all have minds and emotions and causes and reasons, and kids keeping secrets is absolutely no different. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree, and in my opinion, I would expand this to every single drug. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generations to find jobs. Disagree. I believe that there are other things that schools should teach you. I believe college is something that should gear you towards finding a specific career path. Schools should teach you common sense, your rights, laws, things that will help you in society, as well as steer you in a direction of finding what you would like to do or things that you like in general. So I believe that there is just a diverse, wide range of things that a school should do. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I strongly disagree. Eugenics is awful. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Strongly disagree. Discipline comes from an authority, and as we have seen before with my answer, that an authority should be questioned. Authority is not always right. Teaching a kid that authority is not always right is a very strong step in the right direction to make them keep their government in check, one way or another, with their vote, or, if really need be in an extreme scenario, revolution. There are no savage and civilized peoples, there are only different cultures. I strongly agree. I believe that all people are made equal, but they are subject to their cultures. Like, when you look at a culture compared to America, which is, generally accepting towards LGBT, and of course this country has a lot of racism, but it is, more accepting to different races than others. Look at the Chinese. When you compare it to, like, a culture like Saudi Arabia or Iran that can execute you for blasphemy or, being a whore or, subjugation of women, I believe that culture is worse, objectively. But the people are not to blame. They are only to follow the culture. That is what they've been expected to do, etc. So I believe that, yes, this is true. Cultures exist, but all people are rooted in the same. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society support. This is very tough for me, since I believe that people should work. Although there are obviously options as to when you can't or you don't want to work, or etc. It depends on how much society support they're getting, and it depends on the circumstances. This is a very broad question, and it really makes me wish that there was more of a neutral option on this test. So I'm going to say disagree, because I think that there are too many stipulations as to when you wouldn't want to work for a small period of time, but you should still get society support. When you are troubled, it is better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Strongly disagree. There is a scenario where you can interpret this question as like just having a bad day, in which case, yes, you could just keep busy with more cheerful things. But if there is something genuinely bothering you that is consistent or chronic, you should face that problem and get it out of your life. Keeping busy with more cheerful things does nothing to fix your problem. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Strongly disagree. Immigrants built America, for example. They make their own culture here. The culture is a melting pot. Of course, they can be fully integrated and live in that country. It depends on what you define integration as. But if you're working here, you enjoy the customs, you take part in the customs, then yes, of course, you are fully integrated in my eyes. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Strongly disagree, and you are a clown if you believe. Strongly agree here. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Yeah, I agree. Receiving public funding opens the door for billionaires to fund their own media sites that can just take over others, and it bodes really poorly, and a studio with a lot of funding is going to get a lot of news, so a billionaire could push his agenda well. I believe a bipartisan, or not, nonpartisan movement should control broadcasting institutions instead of having it receive public funding. This is page 4 of 6. Our civil liberties are being excessively curved in the name of counterterrorism. Strongly agree, look up the Patriot Act. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Now, I thought about this question earlier today, and I realized that while this question tricks you into thinking that it's good on paper, although one-party systems are bad, I don't even think that this is correct on paper, because the arguments allow for changes to be made that are more agreeable to everybody. Of course, I was going to disagree with this anyway, but even more so, I believe that I have, come up with a better answer for this question. Of course, either way, I strongly disagree. Although the electronic age makes surveillance easier, only wrongdoers should be worried. No, of course not. Your government being able to collect data on you and see everything about you is concerning nonetheless. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly disagree. The death penalty has been proven to not work in any sense of the word. It is just, or in any sense of the way. It is just an appeal to emotion that does not work, is more expensive than keeping them in prison for life, and overall, more death does not bring justice to an already bad situation. The death penalty must be abolished. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Disagree. Although I am not obviously an anarchist, I believe that the amount of hierarchy should be lower. It is possible that a non-hierarchical system can work, such as anarchy, but I do not believe that to be true. Obviously, I'm not cool dictators or de facto heads or anything like that, so I would disagree with this. Abstract art doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Strongly disagree. Anything can be art. It is the common consensus that anything that makes you feel emotion is art. When you ask this question, you need to ask yourself, who would be then considering what would or wouldn't go in a museum? Because if it's not considered art, it wouldn't go in a museum. So who's deciding that? The museum? The people? The government? Of course not. The people can't decide it because they have different views on things, as might the museum. You wouldn't be able to have a democratic vote on this. Anything is art. You shouldn't only consider one thing art and another art. That is absolutely asinine. Anything can be art, whether you like it or not. It doesn't have to be good art, but it's art nonetheless. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly disagree. We've seen this fail miserably in America. You look at the private prison system here that just focuses on punishing with no rehabilitation, and you wonder why there's a giant recidival rate. Punishment comes in second, if anything at all, to rehabilitation. The entire point of prison is to make sure they don't do it again, so rehabilitate them to make sure it doesn't, because punishment clearly is not working when you have a prison system filled of over 600,000 people and mass incarceration for people who have done tiny crimes and even big crimes that go out and do them again because they are not rehabilitated to do otherwise. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Strongly disagree. I believe we should always try. Do I believe that some are unrehabilitatable, if that's a word? Yes, but we should always try. You can't just on paper say, oh well, he might not be able to be rehabilitated. That's crazy. The businessman and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Disagree. Culture is very important, and they are equally important to a strong society. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Strongly disagree. Anybody can be a homemaker. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Yes, obviously, of course they are. They are literally worth more than the GDP of some of these countries. They have immense power, and they are exploiting them in unimaginable ways. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Strongly disagree. I would argue the opposite, because again, it is mature to always question authority and be a free thinker. As a result, never make peace with the establishment, because the establishment is not your friend and it does not care about you. Next page. 5 of 6. Astrology accurately explains many things. I do agree with this. Astrology is something I recently got into. And yes, I would say for a lot of people, it does accurately explain a lot of things. Rightists would also agree with this because of esoteric fascism. However, I believe in this because I think astrology is awesome, and how it is so accurate is just immaculate. It's crazy. While I'm here, I'm a Pisces Sun, Virgo Rising, and Scorpio Moon, with a Pisces stellium. It's rough. But, moving on. You cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree. It is shown that humans already have a moral compass, like straight out of the womb. Like, they know violence is bad. They don't like looking at violence. You don't need religion, which is, again, pretty nebulous in the grand scheme of things, to teach you morals. Morals are common sense to a degree. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Now, I don't like how this question is phrased, because it's true now. In current day America, this is the truth. Charity is better, but I don't want it to be. So I would strongly disagree, because I believe a strong government system that can guarantee care is much, much better than something like GoFundMe, where every 1/3 of its campaigns is on medical bills. You can't rely on charity, where you run popularity contests and the least popular one dies of medical complications because they can't pay for it. No, the government should make sure that you stay alive. That is the point of the government. It's meant to keep you safe. Some people are naturally unlucky. I do agree with this. The reason I agree with this the reason I agree with this is because, like, if you're, like, if you're a straight white man born in America, you are infinitely more lucky than an African who was born in, I don't know, Somalia, into a dirt poor, into a dirt poor living situation that's virtually Stone Age because of civil wars going on. And maybe South Sudan is a better place, not Somalia, but still. You get my point. Like, at that point, I would consider the white man naturally lucky and the poor Somalian kid naturally unlucky. So, in that case, yes. Do I believe in natural luck? That is a discussion for another time. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. Schools should be entirely secular. Page 6 of 6, we're taking a look at sex. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. People can do whatever they want. Stop getting your panties in a twist. A same-sex couple in a stable living relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Of course, anybody can adopt a child. It doesn't matter. Like, same-sex, who cares? It's seriously. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Obviously, who would disagree with this? What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree. The state needs to keep their ass out of that. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree. These days, openness about sex. I don't know if these days openness about sex has gone. You're missing a comma. Openness about sex has gone too far. Strongly disagree. In fact, I think in a lot of cases we're not open enough. But anyway, let's go. Let's see where I stand. So again, this shows the compass test of economic to social scale, libertarian left, authoritarian right, libertarian right. Scrolling down, it shows again where some people are. Stalin, Gandhi, Hitler, Margaret Thatcher, Milton Friedman. This goes on about, whatever. A word about neocons and nihilists. So, again, like I said, this test has a very, very strong bias against our two lib left. If you get anywhere like on the authoritarian axis, you almost have to be cheating. Or if you get authoritarian right here, you literally have to be cheating. It's extremely difficult to do that. So, again, a libertarian right, you have to answer pretty hard right, but, so again, it puts me at, this, I think this would be a libertarian socialist. Obviously, I'm very, very close to anarchism. The bottom here would be anarchism, the top here would be totalitarianism. The left over here would be total collectivism. The right over here would be totally free markets. This would be anarcho-capitalism, anarcho-communism, Stalinism, or Marxist-Leninism. And this would be authoritarian capitalism. So, this is what I got. I got negative 6.53 on the economic left to right scale. And on social and on the libertarian to authoritarian, I got negative 8.15. So those are my results. But anyway, my personal ideology is market socialism. I believe in a free market system where the people own the means of production as well as the companies. I'm not going to get too much into what market socialism is, but I'm definitely a leftist. I hate liberals. I don't like either political party in the United States. But I am a market socialist. But, there you go. So, of course, market socialism is just an economic system, so it'd probably be around right here on the political compass, so it's not that far off. In terms of if I'm authoritarian, libertarian, I would consider myself pretty middle of the road. I think a big government in terms of social programs is needed. Obviously, I don't want any government overreach in personal lives, etc. But, yeah, so this is another video by mine about doing the political compass test this time. We're going on 40 minutes here. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like and please subscribe. I'm having tons of fun doing content like this, and I'd love to do more. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to do the test, I have it linked down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't, go drink water, go get yourself a drink. Make sure you drink that, be good to yourself, take care of yourself, and good night. I am very bad at clicking buttons, I'm sorry. Good night.